Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that they experience as a small business owner, come out the other side willing to share those experiences with us. So, first of all, thank you very much for being a part of the conversation with me, being a part of the program, bringing some value to the people that are listening. Anybody that shares their time with me and the audience, we greatly appreciate that. And I've had a lot of fun getting to know your wife and just kind of the ins and outs of your business and your story. But it's a real pleasure to me to be able to kind of host an opportunity for you to share some of that stuff to some of the people that listen to our stuff. So again, thanks for being here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce your business, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Joe Sawyer, and I'm from Orlando, Florida, and my business name is Always Serving. I came up with this name because I was a firefighter and a paratrooper, and I always served. And I thought, well, the real reason is I really couldn't think of a name, and
Hmm.
I just thought it was fitting.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't have been a better name because people really like that. Um, I went through before I was I own a pressure washing company, and I we do gutter cleaning too, and with pressure washing comes soft washing, roof cleaning, paver sealing, stuff like that. So, but before I was a pressure washing guy, I was a fireman, and I did that for about 20 years, and then before that, I was a paratrooper in the Army, and I did those jobs, and I did them for all the wrong reasons, to be honest with you. Um, when I became a paratrooper, I was the baby out of my family, out of 10 kids, and everybody called me Little Joey. So I wanted to be this badass warrior guy and break out of that mold of being the baby. And so I became a paratrooper in the Army, and I was a forward observer. I was a radio guy, and I called in artillery, close air support, and Navy gunfire. And I, when I was in the military, I loved the image. I love that the camaraderie. I love my friends, but I'm not a killer. And they make you do these little chants like "What makes the grass grow?" and you got to go blood, blood, blood. Blood makes grass go green. Kill, kill,
Hmm.
kill. And I was in my head like, actually water and fertilizer makes plants grow.
Right.
And so I was torn because everybody loved me and I was doing great at this job, but it wasn't me. And I ended up getting hurt late in about 4 years in, and I broke my back and tore a tendon in my shoulder, and that pretty much ended my career. And everybody felt sorry for me that was in the military, but I was always actually like, thank God.
Right.
I can do something else. But that was my out because I didn't want to quit. I felt like I was letting people down.
Right.
And so I did, when I got out of that, I did, I was a fireman. I mean, excuse me, I worked on billboards. I did janitor, construction worker, YMCA teen counselor, you name it, I tried it. But I was lost. And one thing I saw, one of the last jobs I had was working on billboards, and I saw the fire truck go by a lot. And I'd say, oh, I can get that badass image and I don't have to kill anybody. I can help people. And so that's what I went down that road, and I got certified and became a fireman. And then, I became a paramedic. And, years later, I became a lieutenant and worked my way through the ranks. And being a fireman is a really hard career, especially being a firefighter paramedic. And then you add a lieutenant promotion on that, and things get challenging real quick because nobody calls 911 for something good. It's
Right.
the worst moment in somebody's life. And so years and years of seeing, in my career, I probably saw 400 or 500 people dead or killed. And it broke me. Mentally, it broke me inside. And a lot of people don't know this, but the leading cause of death for firemen is suicide. It's higher than our in line of duty death rate. And so I went to a treatment center called the Center of Excellence. and they only treat firemen there. And uh, I got one thing I learned about myself there was that I was trying to impress everybody with these jobs that were not me. And what I finally realized and what I had to admit to myself was I was just an insecure, scared man trying to impress everybody. And once I admitted that, my life kind of fell in place. And I quit drinking 7 years ago. I don't go to AA. I don't do any of that. I try to do something really uncomfortable every single day. I'm 50. I try to go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I work out, in this in the heat in the sun, um, and I love my life. I live a very uncomfortable life, many would think, but for me, it's home. Um, and I really have embraced doing pressure washing and being my own boss. And, there's nothing better than entrepreneurship. And people would tell me, man, Joe, once you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I used to laugh because I thought that was bullshit, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I thought this is that there's no way that's true. And now I believe it. I love waking up and going out and making money, and we're very, very successful at this,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it took a lot for me to get here. I actually I went to that center of excellence twice, and I went to another treatment facility before then, and so I had a year where I was, not doing real good in my life, and but I had to let go of that job and that ego and that attachment to that of those things that I thought were me. But I point to my truck every day and I say, "That's me. This is who I am." And with that being said, if you love what you do, you're gonna wake up motivated. You're gonna wake up wanting to be better at your craft. And you know with that love, money's a byproduct.
Yeah.
you know it really is. Once you love something and you're doing it kind of for fun. I'm lucky enough that people don't know I probably do this for free. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not kidding you, but I get paid very well to go out here and pressure wash. Now, there's a lot to it. You got to have the right equipment. When I first started this, I started with a Home Depot machine. And I learned real quick that you can't have one of those. You got to have about three or four of them because they
Mm-hmm.
break down all the time. And they're really not worth fixing, but I didn't know that at that time. And so I would try to have them fixed, and you pay for, $200 or $300 to have them fixed. The machine's worth 400 or 500 bucks.
Right.
So I just started like, all right, we're just gonna buy a new machine, screw fixing them. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months. And then, I would see other guys and they would say, man, you got to get at this machine. And that machine was like 1,500 bucks. And I was like, man, I can't see myself spending $1,500. It can't be that much better. That's what I would
Right.
say. You know, but once I bought that $1,500 machine, it was like, I went from doing 2 jobs a day, maybe to, now I can do 4 or 5.
Right.
Now I have $6,000 machines, $6,000 to $7,000 machines, and I can do a driveway in 25 minutes.
Right.
And, that's $150. We can do, 5 to 6 jobs of that every day. And
Right.
you add that up, that's, with that, there's a lot of money to be made. In fact, my first year in business, I made about $150,000. So,
Yeah,
and
that's
we're
incredible.
about 5 years in, and we're making a lot more than that now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I wanted to chime in and tell you why I was excited to have this conversation with you is because I relate to a lot to your story. I've been doing payment processing for 10 years. And how I got into this was not, it was similar at the stage of life that I was in, right? So I played sports forever, doing the college sports thing. I had crazy injury to my leg and my foot. And so that time where you're talking about like feeling like you're letting people down and letting yourself down, and your whole sense of like self-worth and your whole identity, and when people ask you who you are and what you say, I am this, like that was I had no answer. I was just had basketball. I had basketball for so long, and then I didn't have basketball really quick, right out from under me. And so I got a couple of different jobs. One, and at like 18 years old, it's impossible to see yourself doing this thing for 30 years, So I got this factory job managing a paint line where we basically hung pieces of metal and run them through this paint that's about the size of a quarter of a Walmart, and it paints all these pieces, and we pack them up and ship them for people to make skyscrapers out of. And my job was sit there and look at a computer screen and make sure a bunch of stuff that was green didn't turn red, and if it did turn red, I radioed somebody. And so, and I could barely walk, and so I just could not see myself doing that for a long period of time, even though I got paid pretty well. And then after that, I got a job with a landscaping company, and my job essentially there was like help manage people. You get the trucks and the equipment and the tools that you need and work orders in everybody's hand, and let them know what they need to do before they get to the shop and start screwing around for 2 hours. Like they could actually leave the shop at 7 a.m. versus leaving the shop at 9 a.m. They were happier about it because they were a lot more efficient. They could take more time at lunch. They could get off at the same day, same time of the day without having to work and kill themselves all day long. And it was a lot more satisfying, but there's no money to be made in that industry when you're not the owner of that company. You know what I mean? And so that led me to payment processing, which was three things for me. It was one, it was residual income, so I could go out there and work my butt off and give myself raises by getting clients, which I liked. And like my level of income was controlled by me. There was a lot of flexibility because I have two young kids. I have an 8-year-old and then I have a 3-year-old, and I go to school assemblies and I go to plays and we go to sports and I drop them off in the morning. I get a lot of flexibility to do what I want, and I love that part of my life. And the third thing that it was for me was school. Like when I left school, I didn't have, they'll give you a certificate of sales, or they'll give you a business management degree, or they'll give you a specialist in general business, but that doesn't teach you anything about being in a business every day. And then I found payment processing, and it was like, okay, you have to be this guy that problem solves, for however big you want to make your book of business be. If you've got a couple hundred clients, you're problem solving for a couple hundred people when they need somebody to problem solve something for me. And that, it kind of forces you to become a little bit of this Swiss Army knife of small business. And knowing that was where my path was going to take me was hanging my hat on and success and failure on myself. This was a way for me to make money and build a platform for myself to do that, to provide for my kids the way that they deserve while still learning what I needed to learn and not making super costly mistakes that my family had to deal with. So I relate to a lot of that, is that I think a lot of people go early on in your life, it feels like you do your last challenge, like mid, late teens for a lot of people, or mid 20s for a lot of people, or, maybe into your 30s for a lot of people. But that challenging thing that you go back to, that you were always using to challenge yourself, a lot of time goes away at a very early, vigorous, vibrant age for a lot of people. And this was that never ending challenge. And I think entrepreneurship is that for a lot of people. It's that way that it's that tool that you use to continue to develop yourself, and it can bring out the best in you, or it can bring out the worst in you. It can reinforce the ideas that you're not good at anything. You're not good at your job. If you're not doing the right things in your business, it can be a negative thing for people too. But if you're willing to put the time and the effort and energy and to build your network and to ask for help and to serve people the way that they deserve to be cared for, you can be super, super successful in your business. So I relate to a lot of what you're saying because I kind of found this home and this place where I could love my life every day. That was the polar opposite of of what I used to define my life when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, I at 18 I would tell you I want to go play in the NBA, and at 19 I would tell you I don't really know what I want to do or what I can do. You know, it's a scary, scary feeling, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are experiencing that same thing. So we relate, and it's honestly really impressive to be where you are in the heat, in a competitive environment, in a place where people are. I mean, Orlando's a busy place. You know, that Tampa area is a busy place. To be out there competing for people's business and doing a really, really good job is a very admirable thing for a small business owner when it's very difficult to do. So,
For me, I don't, so there's a pressure washer store, and a lot of guys go there in the mornings. They'll get their detergents, and I get to talking to a lot of them. And at first, when I would see them, they're like, "Oh, that's my competition," and I would look at them and I would kind of smile and I would say, I'm not your competition. There is no competition out here. The only person that you're competing against is yourself.
that's right.
100%. If you're worried about the other guy, you already lost, you know. So what I mean is everything's a math problem. If you can find the equation, you can figure out you can figure out the answer. And let's just say there's a million homes in Orlando, right? If I hand out 100 flyers, I want to try and get 3% of those clients. So I want to get three. That pays for the flyers, pays from my workers, and puts a little money in my pocket at three. I hope to get more, but three is the minimum, right? So if there's a million homes in Orlando, right, and we got 3% of that, right, that is 30,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
I might be lucky if I do 2,000 homes a year,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little more, maybe a little less, right? But there is no competition, man. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
It's- there's a lot more than 30,000 people that need pressure washing in Orlando.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, it's just
You
how
don't
much of that
see a
space
lot
you
of
want to carve out
trucks.
for yourself.
Yeah, so you don't see a lot of trucks like pressure washing. It's like seeing a lawn truck. Everybody needs their lawn done, And if there's a dime a dozen. You can go down the street and you can find 10 of them. But there's not a lot of pressure washing, and it makes me. I feel like it's self-defeating if you were out there. It's like, oh, there's my competition. There is no competition, man. You
Yeah,
know.
that's a
As
fact.
far as, and even if there was, I would still say there's no I'm my competition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working to be the best. In my business, we take a no shortcut approach, and that means going the distance and doing everything. If we miss a square, we go back and get a concrete. On the sidewalk, they have little squares.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and get one square if that's what it takes. And it sucks, costs me money, costs me time. But what that square does, it teaches me, dude, let's do an extra square. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
one over instead of doing just the bare minimum. Let's take a no shortcut approach and do one of the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is the neighbor comes out and they say, "Hey man, who did your pressure washing? You don't know how much business I get from just doing one square, you know?" And that wasn't my intent. My intent was not to come back.
Right. Right.
Oh, but going that or pressure washing the curb. You don't know how many companies just don't do that. And then when people drive by and they see a clean curb and then it goes dirty again, they'll
Mm-hmm.
stop and ask the homeowner, Who did that? They did the curb too? Dang, I want to hire this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just being a nice person and talk. A lot of these people, they hire me because of me. They're not buying pressure washing. They can find anybody to do that.
Right.
They're buying me. That's what you got to sell yourself. And if you're selling pressure washing or selling pencils, you're gonna go broke if you're selling that because
Mm-hmm.
they're buying. You got to be you.
Yeah.
And once you find who you are, you know, doing the work is the easy part, really. If I could give anybody some advice, I would say, you can start out with a shittier machine.
Mm-hmm.
You need to really invest in advertising or getting work because, like me and you were talking before with the podcast, you run through those friends and families real quick.
Yeah. The low
You're
hanging fruit goes away really quick.
Yeah, it does, man. And another thing is in this business, if I could give some advice, I would say make sure you price accordingly. Because once I price, like let's say I was doing an average size driveway, it might be 150 to $200. But I see a lot of guys, they come, I see them on Facebook or whatever, and they're doing it for $100. But a lot of people won't call you back because I track everybody. I have
Mm-hmm.
about 4 or 5 thousand clients and I track everybody and we call them back right when they need it. And that's really handy because I'm booked out 3 weeks solid every week at all year. Um, but if you're undercharging, because they're not going to call you, most people don't call you back for pressure washing on a driveway for about 2 years.
Right.
So if you're doing it for $100, I hope you can live on that for 2 years.
Right.
It's, with your line of work, you probably, want, I don't know if you have like residual income from that, but
Yeah.
like
Oh,
if
yeah,
it
we
was
do
a
for
one
sure.
time, yeah, if it was a one time like it is with me, you better price accordingly.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen, I mean, people go to the internet. Like it's no secret that people go to the internet and figure out how much they should be comfortable paying for something. In
Yeah.
my industry, one of the best conversations that we have is like we'll price equipment for someone or like a restaurant or opening, they'll need a couple of point of sales and mobile this and printers and they'll need this big complex solution. And I might go to them and be like, hey, this is like $5,000. And then they'll go on the internet and they'll be like, hey, this company is going to give it to me for $1,000. And I'm like, well, let me explain to you why. They're okay with
Yeah.
giving you a super deal on this equipment. And then you're locked into a contract for 3 years, or you're maybe leasing that equipment and you don't even own it, or they're doing all of these things to like get your interest so that they can get an opportunity to pitch you something. And then
Yeah.
people all the time go say, yeah, I wouldn't call that ad anyway. That price is just too low. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, yeah, but you were asking me about it because you wanted me to try to compete against it. What do I look like if I just there's no bait and switch in my industry. Or from in my company, there's no contracts. Like if you hate us, you leave us tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like if we're not tying
100%.
you to us for 3 years or trying to get money out of you later, we just want to do a really, really good job. And
That's
we
what,
want to
yeah,
be
exactly.
fair and we want to be honest and we want you to be able to call us and get a hold of us. And
Yeah.
honestly, the thing that we've kind of hung our hat on is that we can, in layman's terms, without a bunch of sales jargon and big words, tell you these people are not going to take care of you the way that we'll take care of you, because to us you're family and to them you're merchant number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Like
Yeah.
that's what it is. That's what makes a small business is that it has some personality and it has people. You have to be people, and you have to meet people where
Yeah.
they are. You have to be a relatable guy. You have to be a normal person. We're in this age where authenticity and being very genuine is very difficult to find, and it can get you a long,
100%.
long way. It really can. It can carry you a
100%.
long way if you lean into it.
I
If
can tell you, there's so some people when they call me, they'll say, well, I'll give them the price. This will be $200, and they'll say, well, the last guy did it for $75, and I'll tell them straight up, well, listen, why don't you call that guy back?
yeah, there's a
And
reason
they're
you're
like,
not
well, I
calling them
tried. He
back.
was not answering his phone, and I say he's probably out of business.
Yeah,
Fact.
yeah,
You charge. You didn't know what he was doing, and maybe he's still doing his thing, and that's great. You know, and I'm not knocking anybody for charging that, but I'm not there anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well, people value your work for the way that you price it yourself too. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, and they're gonna. So there's a client out there for everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my sons because we made a couple different businesses off of this one. After pressure washing, we do a gutter cleaning division, we have a pressure washing division, and then we have a paver sealing and sanding. And you know, I tell my sons never fight for a bad client,
Mm-hmm.
and that is probably the one of the most important lessons I've learned by being a business owner is if somebody's already complaining or, they're not happy, don't fight. 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 Don't fi they're hard to deal with before you do any work for them. It's gonna be. I'm just to me, I'm
Yeah.
not fighting for a bad client.
Yeah. It's going to end
And
up
I tell
costing
them,
you money
listen,
more than
man,
likely,
we're not a
too.
good fit for you, you know?
I
And
did that for a long time as I would make those, I knew that, and I would make those excuses for people. I'd be like, this one's not going to be like that. These people are nice people. Like, it's not, it's going to happen. It happens
yeah,
every time. It happens like clockwork. Like, you
it
can't
does.
avoid it. It's tough to avoid, man. You're gonna have those clients that ask you for the moon and are a pain about everything. And I would respond the same way as what I just said, is that authenticity and honesty with people goes further than anything. Like, hey, I just can't do it for that and do the job that I expect myself to do. It's not
Yeah,
fair to
and
me or fair to you.
I'm okay walking away. I feel better about it,
Yeah,
and it
for
takes a
sure.
lot of pressure off of you,
It
man.
really does.
Say no to somebody, you're good instead of like because when you do a job that you know is worth $200 or $300, now you're doing it for $75, you're pissed off, man,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna be mad and poo poo pants, and you don't want to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're like, why did I take this? I knew better, and so
I'll tell you this too. When you overprice them, gives me even more anxiety. When you're doing a $300 job for $1,000, and you
yeah,
know that there's just not enough value to give people to show them $1,000 worth of work, they might not say a word about it. They might leave you a review. They might shake your hand. They might pay their bill a week in advance, but they're not going to call you back because
never.
you didn't even have the chance. You stacked the odds against yourself to be able to deliver them that wow moment. Like, you made it too hard because you charged them too much money, which
Yeah,
it stresses me out even worse. Like, I
yeah.
can't sell somebody $2,000 worth of equipment for $10,000 and then
You don't
sleep.
know how many times that I've gone to jobs and we quote them something. And then when we get there and I do the work and I say, hey, I know I said this was going to be 550, but it's going to be 400. And they're like, what? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, yeah, I work on repeat clients and, we misquoted you. And it makes me feel better, man. And I get a lifetime client out of that.
Yeah, for
They're gonna
sure.
tell all their friends, man, this guy, he gave me a discount. He said they said it was gonna be 550. He said, that never happens, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
And so just being, like you said, authentic and honest, it goes a long way, man. You don't have to hold that burden
No
in, man.
doubt. Yeah.
And sometimes is it nice to get that extra $150? Hell yeah, it is. But is it worth it in the long run?
No, it's not.
Because you're not going to call you back. And that's another thing is these guys, a lot of our clients, I get a lot of other people's clients because we're priced reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of these other companies, they charge a lot, but they don't have a lot of work. I promise you that. I'm
Well,
gonna
you
do
guys are
one
doing a lot more
job,
commercial these days too, right?
doing commercial, residential.
Are
We do anything, man, really,
us for commercial especially? It's like we work with like a lot of CPAs and people that build websites, other people that solve problems for businesses.
Yeah.
And we will give their clients a really, really good deal on credit card processing and take care of them. And those people will send us clients for life. And I
Yeah.
have had people that have been sending me business for 8, 9, 10 years now, that when they talk to people just go, hey, I'm going to give Bailey your phone number. He's going to call you. He's going to be your credit card processor. They've been taking care of me for a long time. So like the relationship that you can build with people will always be more profitable than the change. You're tripping over pennies or over dollars to get to pennies when you're
Mhm.
taking that upfront money. But tell me this. We've talked a little bit about your story. We talked about what you guys do well that kind of makes the culture of your company. What's been difficult? What's been the hard part? Like, if you could go back and teach yourself something, for on day one that you've known, 7 years in, what would you go teach yourself?
Well, when you first start, when you think about pressure washing, it's not rocket science. Um, but I would say, I really don't, I wouldn't say I would go back and change anything because I learned a lot of value from making
Right.
mistakes, you know. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot of mistakes I've made. You know, like breaking a window, or on a spigot. Sometimes we're trying to get the old hose off, and we broke spigots, and
Mm-hmm.
it's $1,000 to fix somebody's plumbing. You got to turn their water off. That's if I know what I know now, I know how to take those things off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you start wrenching on that type of thing. I would say the equipment is probably the biggest thing, though. I mean, learning how to do what you do, that comes pretty quick. But um, a Home Depot machine, again, you might be able to do one or two a day. With a $1,500 machine, you might be able to do, two to three. With a $7,000 machine, you're gonna be able to do five or six
Mm-hmm.
easy, you know, and learning how those learning how that stuff operates and efficiently. I had a kind of an advantage because I was a fireman, and,
Right.
I had to go to pump operators engineer school
Mm.
to learn how to pump the truck and stuff like that. So I understood how Venturi, basically like a downstreaming device, works,
Right.
and I understood how that principle operates. And so a lot of these guys, they don't understand um, how any of that works, and so they do things a lot to other time. I see trucks; they're carrying around all this water. I see people carrying out huge tanks of water, and I have 8-gallon machines and 5.5 machines, and I never carry water,
Right.
ever. And they're like, "You're going to break your machine." I've been running this way for 5 years now, and they're still working. you
Right.
know, but each gallon of water weighs 9 pounds, right? And I used to have a tank, and I thought, oh, this is how everybody does it, so this is how you have to operate. But they want money for the tank, and those things, this ain't cheap. And then you carry that water around. Each gallon of water weighs 9 pounds. So if you have a 300-gallon tank, do the math.
Yeah.
You know,
You'll
it's
break a truck.
2,700 pounds. You're just throwing dollars out the window.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and some guys have 1,000-gallon tank on their back, or 500. And first of all, it's dangerous to have that,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's on a trailer or on your truck,
Yeah, you catch your turn too fast, you're gonna.
that water gets a sloshing around. It'll flip a fire truck,
Yeah.
not let alone a little trailer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys don't know. So in the fire service, we have basically a rule: either the tank is all the way full, or it's all the way empty. It's another half. And I see all these guys, they driving around with half empty, water sloshing around. It'll flip it.
Mm-hmm.
And a half empty tank will flip a fire truck on its side
Right.
many times. And so, if I had, to do it again, I'd probably wouldn't buy the water tank. But again, you learn from these mistakes.
Right.
There's I would probably say, there was a couple clients that, I messed up some, and I paid for it. And, I wish I could, not mess up, but I feel like that mess up, though, helped me prevent making a more catastrophic one in the future.
I had a guy tell me, it's still a merchant of mine actually. I asked him kind of this same question, and he was like, "Man, I broke a bunch of $50 windows." And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "Well, I ain't never broke a $2,000 one." And I was like, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me." You know what I mean? He's like, "Yeah, I've messed up a bunch of stuff, and I would have rather messed it up then than I would have when I'm doing the biggest job of my life." So he's
Yeah.
like, I'm thankful for those mistakes, because they were mistakes that I could fix at Lowe's. They
Yeah.
weren't
There's
mistakes that I had
nothing.
to go talk to the bank about.
I tell you, there was a big mistake I made early on, and I was using it was around a pool patio, and this lady had real nice plants, and I ended up some of the detergents that we use, well, especially when I'm around a pool, I use like a chlorine soap water
Mm-hmm.
mixture, and it takes that mold and the allergy,
Yeah, the slick
kills
stuff.
it, and then it stays clean for a year or so. And I got some of that on her plants, and I'm not going to say anything bad about it, but I feel like she wasn't being real fair. And um, it ended up costing me about $4,500 to replace plants.
Mm,
I paid it, but for $150 job, let's just say I'm not
yeah.
a good for her anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And the plants weren't even dead.
Yeah.
But it taught me how to be more careful. It
Yeah.
really, and honestly, at this point in my life, looking back, I was angry back then, but now I'm like, I do that again
Yeah.
because that taught me a lot about like I am super careful around plants,
Mm-hmm.
and I do $1 million homes now. And so it'd be a lot more than $4,500 to
Yeah.
replace that,
You kill
you
some
know.
holly trees and you'll be
Yeah,
talking to the bank
you
real
know.
quick.
But yeah, she had some bamboo on there in her yard, and she said that I rounded a little bit. And I said, "Listen, ma'am,
It's bamboo.
bamboo, it was the only thing that grew back after Hiroshima. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't kill this."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she was like, "No, you need to replace it." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's tough.
you're gonna meet people that are irrational.
Yeah.
And
Bamboo's
wow.
tough too because if you just plant one, eventually it'll all be back.
Yeah,
But I know she
I
wanted it
kept
back as
telling her
quick as
that, but she
possible.
was insistent on it was, it was just easier to take care of the problem and, move on,
No
just
doubt.
move forward. And I love my life, man. I love what I do. If you would have told me that I'd be a pressure washer guy, 10 years ago, I'd have said you're crazy,
Hmm.
man. I really would have. I would have said there's no way. But I can't see myself doing anything different right now. Um, I'm not going to say I do have other aspirations and stuff, but right now this is where I'm at. Is where the universe wants me, and I intend to stay here for as long as it tells me until it tells me to leave.
Yeah.
You know,
No
but
doubt.
I'm at peace, man, and that's the biggest thing. If I could tell you, in your life, your goal should be and not to make $1 million or any of that. Your goal should be to figure out who you are. Like you said it earlier, like you ask yourself, who am I? And if you don't know the answer to that, you need to do some digging,
Yeah.
because if you don't know that answer, you're going to spend your life searching. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Once you know who you are, all that other stuff falls in place.
I
All
can.
those dreams will come right
Yeah.
to you.
I can tell you this for me when I had a shift of focus off of money, I got way more successful at what I did on a daily basis because when you're 18, you want to be the generational wealth guy, right? You
Mhm.
want to be the set my family up for generations, do what we want, be rich, maximize money. I'll do whatever it takes for that. Well, I had kids early. I had my first kid when I was 20. You know what I
Okay, me
mean?
too. Yeah.
So, and now I have another 3-year-old, right? And so when I had, and my wife's never been out of the country until last week, right?
Okay.
Like first time she's ever been out of the country. She'd never been really anywhere in the United States. And so as my kids were getting older, we really took it upon ourselves to try to instill this culture of travel and curiosity and all of those things in our kids, because instilling those values in them I felt was a more generational gift than no matter how much money I could leave. My whole family
100%.
is a lineage of living and dying somewhere within the same about 40-mile radius
Yeah.
for hundreds of years. Like for hundreds of years. My dad has been to Hawaii, never been out of the country. My mom's never been past. My brother played football for Nebraska, and I think maybe that's the furthest she's been. My brother, my sister, myself, my sister's still never been out of the country. My brother's been everywhere with me, but like trying to find a way to instill that culture in our family of like, you can go, you can travel. Like getting
Yeah.
on an airplane and going somewhere is not a myth or a privilege for rich people only. Like you can go if you prioritize to that to be the thing for you. And so making those memories with my family in that way has been the thing that's driven me. and then finding ways to challenge myself physically, honestly, has been a big part of it for me. But it man, life is so difficult, and trying to make work be the key that slides into every slot, that fixes every problem, that you make so much money you don't have things to worry about anymore. It's a thing that doesn't happen. And the thing that I appreciate about your story is that you allowed your business to be something that continued to help develop you, develop who you are, and what you thought that you were worth, and your time was worth, and the skills that you wanted to grow. There are moments that we deal with in life that we don't always reflect on ourselves the best way, and you have to find a way to overcome that, and you have to find something to put yourself into. You have to find that I am. You really have to find those three dots after I am and figure out what that means to you. And you have to reflect a lot of that in what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I appreciate that from you. I appreciate that from your wife, to be completely honest with you, is that she had so many things, so many good things to say about you and your family and your kids, and just the desire that they have to make their life what they want, and the reason that you guys all got into this stuff. It's a really, really good story, not
Yeah.
for HBO, but for us regular people that need to look at people like us and say, damn, we really can make today what we want today to be. It's a really, really cool thing. And I think that that's kind of been my favorite thing about this podcast, is that we talk to a lot of business people. We talk to some that are super successful. I mean, 9-figure bank accounts. I've talked to some people that I couldn't believe that I was in the room with.
Yeah.
And they're super normal people, man. They're
Yeah.
super normal people that fell in love with this thing, and they got really, really freaking good at it.
Yeah.
And, I hope the same for you guys.
One thing I could, if I can give some advice is while I'm pressure washing, I'm usually listening to a book, and you can listen to politics and read music and whatever you want in life. You can do whatever you want, but if you're working, to me, I'm learning while I'm working and reading books. I listen to a book a week
Mm
on Audible. You can buy the book
hmm. Mm
and
hmm.
play it through your headphones. But you know, there was a book I read, and I don't remember the exact name of it. But it talked about having 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
10,000 hours, you're an expert.
Mm hmm.
I have probably over 10,000, probably like 15 or 20,000 hours of pressure washing. I'm not kidding you. I do it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the last 5 years. And I can tell you all the ins and outs, man. I'm really good at it. I would
Mm
say I'm the Michael Jordan of pressure wash.
hmm.
I'm the GOAT, you know, and I'm not bragging. Again, if anybody sees me out there and they're doing a pressure washer and they have any questions, I'll help you. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to shun you or like you're my competition. No, man. Here, I'll show you this. This is helpful. And I do it all the time. Matter of fact, people call me out of the blue and, hey, I so and so told me that you do this and I need some help, and I'll come on over and I'll show you. In fact, I just did it the other day. Some guy didn't. He's been doing this for 2 years and he didn't know how a downstreamer works. These were some of the things that I was telling you, like when I would go back and regret or man, I wish I would have known that. It taught me all this stuff, and I have $30,000 worth of equipment on my truck, and I probably have $10,000 worth of tools, and I can fix anything. And I never was mechanically inclined at all. And I can take stuff apart, put it back together, and it was me trial and error, learning how to do this sort of thing. And working on pressure washers isn't like working on a motor vehicle or anything like
It's
that.
pretty close.
It is, but it's not is like there's a lot of more
I
belts
guess
and
maybe it
stuff.
was 10 years ago, though, because I remember we had like this 2000 PSI pressure washer that my dad would like. I would do something bad and he would be like, go spray something, just I don't want to look at
Yeah.
you. And I remember I spent more time taking that thing apart and cleaning the carburetors and trying to get it to start, lifting
Well,
the
that's the thing
carburetor
about a
headers.
pressure washer. If you don't run them a lot, they tend to in the bottom in the carburetor it tends to gum up in there and they
Oh
will
yeah.
not.
I would
So
hold the lifters and the carburetor open just to get it to start, and then let them pop, pop, pop.
one thing I would like to tell people too is when you're buying a pressure washer, and this is just for anybody layman, this doesn't have to be anybody that, does this for a living, but if you went to Home Depot, a lot of times they sell you on that PSI number,
Mm,
and that's not really the cleaning power. There's another number on there. If you look, it'll say PSI and then it'll say GPM. That's gallons per minute, and that's really your cleaning power. If you have 4,000 PSI, and you're only putting out 1.5 gallons per minute, it's going to take you about 8 hours to do your driveway.
yeah, yeah,
Streams like that. My streams are like that because I'm pushing 8 to 10 gallons a minute, 5 gallons a minute, whatever. I have different machines because when I hook up to a spigot, I have a water gauge and I
mm,
can see how much water comes out of the spigot. And so we'll use this machine. We'll use the better machine, and we got a lot of water here. We don't have so much water here. And that gets me away from carrying that water tank, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
I just bought a Jeep, and I bought one that hangs on the side of my house,
okay.
and it's super low pressure, super high gallons per minute,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
all you need,
awesome.
man. It
It's
works.
awesome. It blows soap all over my Jeep and sprays it right off, and it's nice.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
nice.
of people buy that. A lot of times when you buy a high PSI, when you're cleaning your concrete, it's called you'll scour it.
Oh yeah, you cut lines into it.
Yeah, and you're not really cleaning it. You're taking concrete off.
Mm-hmm.
It's
We grew up with mud
5,000
trucks.
gallons.
We had a fleet of mud trucks that we would go burying mud bogs every weekend, and so
Okay.
I would get in trouble, and I would go out there with a pressure washer and knock mud. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of mud off of the
Yeah.
bottom of these mud trucks that there was
Yeah.
no reason to be washed at
Yeah.
all. It was
Yeah.
purely punitive, and it was
Fun.
and
Yeah.
it character. I developed some character behind a pressure washer.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm out there, man, I develop, you get, sometimes it's hot, you don't feel like being out there. And I always tell myself, what's behind this?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? And then I'll think, man, I provide work for my wife, my sons, my sister, we can do vacations. And then, there's got to be that, I read a book on the why, you got to have that
Yeah.
why.
Oh yeah.
If
Simon
you don't know
Sinek.
why you're doing
Start with
something, if you're
why.
just doing it to make money, you gotta quit, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
no
just gotta
doubt.
quit.
That's an incredible book, by the way. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. It's a really really good one. But I think we're pretty near in time, so I wanted to say to everybody that's listening, appreciate you guys hanging around for this long. Please check out Joe Always Serving, especially if you're in the Orlando area. I actually have some guys that I want to introduce to you. One that's down there, one that's in your industry actually, that's
Okay.
making some soaps and cleaners,
Oh,
detergents,
definitely. Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
They're making it themselves in house. They're a big pressure washing company in Kentucky, but he's actually
Okay.
been a pretty good friend of mine for a while, and they're
There's actually a couple products I'm looking for, so this is good.
I couldn't tell. You'll forget more about pressure washing than I'll never know for sure.
Yeah.
But he told me a lot of very data and scientific based information about these cleaners and the reason that there's not a lot of things like them on the market. And I remember that it won't kill stuff or
Yeah.
grow algae back, or some of it's for your roof. He's got a bunch of stuff that was really, really cool that he's trying to bring. It's a little bit different, a little bit more affordable to the market. So I wanted to introduce him to some people that I know are using stuff. But he's in
Okay.
Kentucky. He'll send you some stuff. I'd love to know what you think about it.
Yeah, I would definitely, I'll give him some feedback and I'll definitely give you feedback.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I would love to introduce him to some more people. He's trying to get it
There's a
into like
couple
some
of
auto
things
parts
that
store.
we get a lot of, as people, mark stuff up with spray paint, like the gang signs and
No
stuff.
doubt.
That stuff I've bought in some of it, and some of it's pretty expensive. And I'd like to see if he has anything for a reasonable price there,
Yeah. I can
because
make an
some of that
introduction.
stuff is pretty pricey.
You'll love this guy too. He's super super nice.
Yeah,
They're good people. I'm actually
okay,
trying to go to a conference with them That's like a Christian-based business entrepreneur mastermind type of thing in Texas in a few
Okay.
months, and
Yeah.
he's the one that introduced me to that world. And they are that's some of the people that I couldn't believe I got in the room with, type of thing. Like
Yeah.
these people are so willing to help you, and they couldn't stand anything. If I could give them everything that I have right now, I could give them my whole book of business and every asset I own, and it wouldn't be a drop in the bucket. And they just
Mm.
want to help you. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to embody a lot of that myself, and
Okay.
you are too, by being
Yeah.
a part of this. It really does mean a lot to my little circle, especially. These things have been super good. It's been a game changer for my career, and I've learned a lot, helped people learn a lot, and it's very, very appreciated. So I'll make a couple of introductions for you. If you need anything in the meantime, please let us know.
Yeah, no problem. And again, if anybody out there sees this and they're starting their own pressure washing, they can feel free to call me, and I'll help them any way I can.
Yeah,
You um,
that means a lot. Thank you. All right, we'll burn the ship.